Okay, good morning everybody, and welcome. We're going to learn a mimer from the Alter Rebbe. It was written in Likutei Torah and on Parshas Vayikra. Vayikra al Moshe v'Gomer, Aleph de Vayikra Zeiro, uv'divrei hayomim ksiv Odom be'elef rabasi. So we know that if you look at the Torah, and this week Parsha, you will find that the Aleph is Zeiro, is a very small Aleph. In Divrei Hayomim, in the book of Chronicles, it's when it discusses Adam, the first man, it's written with a big Aleph, Aleph Rabasi. So in Vayikra, it's a small Aleph. In Divrei Hayomim, it's big Aleph. So we need to understand why in our Parsha there's a small Aleph in Vayikra, and why in Divrei Hayomim there's a big Aleph in the name Adam. V'hine amru Razal Vayikra al Moshe v'lo ka'Avram. Rabbi said that Vayikra al Moshe, it's not the same calling as was done to Avram Avinu. Regarding Avram Avinu, it says Malach Havaye, Vayikra Malach Havaye Avram, that the angel of God called Avram. Hamalach HaKorev V'Adibur Medaber, the angel is calling, and the utterance of God is speaking. V'Adibur Medaber. But here it says Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ani HaKorev V'Ani HaMedaber. In this case, Hashem says, I am the caller, and I am the speaker.
No middleman.
Exactly. So when it comes to Avram Avinu, there was an angel that called Avram. Vayikra Malach Hashem el Avram. The angel of God called Avram. Famous. We see it in the Akedah that we read in the morning. The whole story of God asking Avram to slaughter Yitzchak, put him on the altar. And over there it says, Vayikra Malach Havaye Avram, the angel of God called Avram, but it wasn't a direct calling. Over here we see, Ani HaKoreh, Ani HaMedaber. Hashem is calling, and Hashem is the speaking one. We need to understand, לפי זה, למה לא נאמר ויקרא השם אל מוישה, ומדוע נזכר כלל בפסוק מהקורא? Fine. Hashem is the caller, Hashem is the speaker, but why doesn't it say, Vayikra Hashem el Moshe? Instead, what does the Parsha say? What is the opening verse of this week Parsha? No, not Vayikra el Moshe. The first pasuk in this Parsha, Vayikra el Moshe, Vaydaber elo ma'ol moed lemo. So it says, Madua lo nizkar klal b'pasuk mi haya koreh. It doesn't say who is the caller. Fine, Vayikra al Moshe, you're calling Moshe, but who is calling Moshe? It says Vayikra al Moshe, pause, and then it says Vaydaber Hashem elo ma'ol moed. Hashem then spoke to him from the tent of meeting. But it should have said Vayikra Hashem el Moshe, meaning Hashem called Moshe. Instead it says Vayikra al Moshe, meaning the one who called Moshe is hidden. Doesn't tell us who is the caller. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So according to the Midrash, it says Hashem is the caller, Hashem is the speaker. Why doesn't the Torah say it clearly, Vayikra Hashem el Moshe, instead Vayikra al Moshe? Gam tzarich lov, another thing that we need to understand, it says in Zohar, Vayikra al Moshe v'lo k'omar man hovet, meaning that this question is already mentioned in the Zohar. V'lo k'omar man hovet, it didn't say who is the caller. Ela b'chol ani melocha debri savo v'chulu v'kudsha v'chu itma. It says in all these cases, the caller was Malach HaBris, the angel of covenant, and v'chulu v'kudsha v'chu itma. And obviously Hashem is the speaker. Hashem is speaking to him. So as the Zohar interpret, according to the Zohar, in all places where you see Vayikra and it doesn't say who is the caller, like in our case, is the Malach HaBris, the angel of covenant. And according to the simple meaning of the Zohar, even in this case, it's Malach HaBris. It's the angel of covenant. It's not Hashem calling him directly. So how does it work how does the Zohar can be reconciled with the Midrash? Because seemingly it's saying the opposite. The Midrash tells us Hashem is the caller, Hashem is the speaker. And the Zohar says it's Malach HaBris, it's the angel of covenant that called Moshe. והעניין כי הנה לעיל מיני כסיב ולאוכל משה לבוא אלוהינו כשוכנה לו לכבוד הווי אמול למשכן. We ended off Parshas Likutei that the Moshe Rabbeinu was unable to enter the Mishkan. Why? Because the Shochan Olav, because on top of the Mishkan rested the cloud of glory. Shochan Olav Onon, the cloud rested on the Mishkan, and therefore Moshe Rabbeinu could not enter the Mishkan. Such a thick cloud that he wasn't able to enter. Pirush Shochan Olavon. What is the meaning Shochan Olavon? On the cloud rested. Wam Shochas or Shochas of Bochu Mokem Elin V'Neo is the resting of the infinite light of Hashem from a place that is in Neuromoid Elyon V'Neuromoid, meaning supernal and very lofty. Shenemar Boy, it says regarding this place, Yoshes Choshech Sisroi. We learned this concept before. Yoshes Choshech Sisroi, it's a place that darkness and light are the same. Like the source of darkness. There, even darkness is light. So it's a godly light from a very lofty and fearful place, Neuromoid. And that place is called Choshech. Not Choshech because it's darkness, it's Choshech because we can't perceive what's happening there. So to us it's darkness. This is the level of the infinite light of Hashem, that is encompassing all worlds. In that level there's no gilui, there's no revelation, no hasaga, no grasping.
Is that a fence hugger?
No, hasaga is grasping. Hasaga, that you can't have any kind of grasping. To grasp any idea, it's not possible. Why? Because no thought can grasp him. Lasig in general is to acquire something, to get it. Isagti lasig. So lo shaykh b'shum hasaga, there's no hasaga, there's no way to understand it. It says in Zohar, your wisdom is such wisdom that it's not a known wisdom. You are the knower, you are the knowledge, and you will, meaning they have all the levels of understanding. It's all in one. Usually, the knowledge is something that is outside of us. So the person acquires the knowledge, he acquires something that outside of him. In this case, you are the one that the knower, you are the knower, you are the knowledge, you are everything. Regarding to this level, it says Yoshes Choshech Sisroi, meaning going back to what we said before, Moshe Rabbeinu is unable to enter the cloud. Why? Because Shochan Olavon. There's a cloud that rested on him, rested on the tent, on the Mishkan. And what type of cloud? What was this revelation? From Yoshes Choshech, from this place that it's concealed, hidden, Elyon V'Neo, supernal and fearful, and that's why I wasn't able to enter. What is this level? We said it's Sevev Kol Almin, Antu Chakim Le'Chochmadia, wisdom is not known. Now, Choshech hu dor she'nira b'shum tfisa v'asog. Choshech, what is the definition of darkness? It's something that doesn't have any kind of tfisa. You can't touch darkness. But metaphorically, you can't touch darkness physically, but also the concept of darkness, meaning there's certain things that are concealed from you, they're hidden, they're like darkness, something you can't touch, you can't grasp. So from their perspective, the godly light is like choshech, it's like darkness, because it's so lofty from the understanding of created beings. So to us it's choshech, to us it's darkness. Whatever is revealed to us is oir. Whatever is concealed is hidden from us. It's choshech, darkness. We say in the Shemoneh Esrei, in davening, Ato Kodesh, V'Shimcha Kodesh, you are holy, your name is holy. Pirush, what does it mean? Shegam v'chinas shmo nisgav levado, that even Hashem's name is nisgav levado, meaning is way above us. She'ein aroich lo'ilamis im shmo yisborach klal. Shmo yisborach kodesh umuvdam olamis, that there's no comparison between the worlds and Hashem's name, and even the name of God is muvdal, is separated from the world, is aloof from the world. Rak hoidoi vezivoy shel shmoi nimshach aletz shmoi. Just is ray, is the ray of Him that comes over, that is giving over Himself to heaven and earth. Bottom line is just a ray from Hashem's name. That's the meaning. We say kinizgav. First of all, we say kodesh. Kodesh means separated. Like someone says to his wife, "Arei at mekudeshes li," you are separated to the rest of the world under the chuppah. This statement really means that you are separated to the rest of the world. You are holy to me. And similarly over here, we say ato kodesh. You are separated, meaning that even your name, shimcha kodesh, even your name is so much aloof, so much higher than the world, that it's nisgav, it's above us, above the heaven and the earth. So the heaven and the earth are only receiving a ray from His name. Pirush Ata Kodesh. What is the meaning of Ata Kodesh? Dainu HaKodesh Baruch Hu b'chvoidu v'atzmoi shelamayla mebchinas shmoi, ainu she'afilu mebchinas ziv v'oid lo yolu masachon lekabel meno klal. So when we say Ato Kodesh, first of all, Ato is you. And there's no titles, you directly. The way He is higher than His name, and the Kedusha, the sanctity, and I would say the Havdalah, the being separated, being distinguished, of Ato is the highest one. Is higher, obviously, than the Kedusha of Shimcha. You have the Kedusha of Ato, and you have the Kedusha of Shimcha Kodesh. Ato is you. And so obviously the Kedusha of Ato is higher than the Kedusha of Shimcha. The two different levels. You have the sanctity directly of God, and then you have the sanctity, the holiness of God's name. But even the lower level of sanctity, the name, is much separated and higher than any understanding of created beings. And from Hashem Himself, the world, from Ato, they're not receiving. They're only receiving from a ray of Hashem's name, extension of Hashem's name. Now we can understand what's the meaning of the pasuk Yoshes Choshech Sisru, which is a pasuk in Tehillim 18:12. Since even a ray of Him, the worlds are unable to receive. That's why it's called Choshech. We said before, to them, from our perspective, from the perspective of created beings, since we are unable to receive anything, so to us it's called Choshech, darkness. And the ray that we are capable of receiving, it's Mibchinas Shimcha Kodesh, it's from your holy name. V'nikra Ziva Shechina, it's called the ray of the Shechina. So the Shechina itself, the divine presence itself, is Shmoi, is the name of Hashem. It's a ray that is coming to for the needs of the world, and that's why this ray is called Shechina, because it's resting down here in the lower worlds, like the pasuk says, "V'shochanti b'seichom," I'm dwelling in them. And Shmoi, the level of His name, by itself is aloof, is much higher. It's lofty. levadoi, shmoi levadoi. There's no, the worlds have no comparison, have no closeness with the name of Hashem. So what is it that they have? Hoidoi v'zivoi, just to ray that of His name they are able to receive. That's what shines down here. It says, what is Ala Oretz? Hoidoi v'zivoi. Ala Oretz is referring to Ala Oretz on the earth, heaven and earth. So earth is referring to the lower Gan Eden, and heaven referring to the upper Gan Eden. There the tzaddikim are deriving tremendous benefit and joy from the ray of the Shekhinah. But the Shekhinah itself, lo nimshach mimeno lios hanivroim. What is the lios hanivroim? Nenin misangim uba'atzum mamish. Shekhinah itself, the nivroim, the created beings, are not deriving benefit directly from it. Uberai me'emna Parshas Pinchas Iso the Yoshes Chositro Keser in Rai Me'emna, which is the part of the Zohar that is attributed to Moshe Rabbeinu, the faithful shepherd. That's the meaning of the words Raya Me'emna. It says that the meaning of Yoshes Choshech Sisro is not what we just said before. It's rather a reference to Keser Elyon. Keser is the crown, the light, the infinite light of God that is above Ishtalshelus, above any kind of degradation, to the limited worlds. Meaning it's much higher. Like for they give an example of a physical crown that is above the head and surrounds the head. And similarly, Keser, the level of crown, it's a godly level that is above the order of degradation and a level that encompasses the world. So since this level is above the world and above created beings, so much so that they don't have any perception, any understanding, that's why it's called choshech to them. It's called darkness to them. Because it's above, they can't get it, they can't grasp it. It's to them, it's choshech, darkness. Regarding this type of a drawdown, this type of a flow, it says Kishochan Olav Onon, that the cloud rested on the Mishkan, on the sanctuary, and they were unable to, Moshe Rabbeinu was unable to enter until he had the calling, Vayikra Moshe. So we learned up till now that when we say Onon, cloud, that rested on the Mishkan, it speaks about a lofty light, very superior, supreme light, and it's called Ata Kodesh. You are holy. That even away from it is not given to the world, only from Shimcha, only from your name, and that's why it's called Choshech and Anon to them. To us, it's a cloud. A cloud is something that there's cloudy sky. We can't see the sky because there's clouds. Concept of concealment. Choshech, same thing. Darkness. Can't see it because there's darkness. So since it was such revelation, such a great level, it was choshech, darkness. So we're going to see now. What does it mean? It's a continuation of the pasuk. Why? Moshe is unable to come. Because the cloud rested, and then it says and the honor of God filled the Mishkan. What does that mean? What does it mean that the honor of God filled the sanctuary? The meaning of the pasuk that Kvoid Havai filled the Mishkan, it should have said Milo in the past, filled the Mishkan in the past. What is Mole? What is the meaning of Mole? It's full right now. Full means present. It says that the honor of God was somewhat drawn down. completed, came into its completion, and was filled up, and only then it was revealed. So in the Zohar it writes, Ma mai mole. Why does it say mole samishkan? If you look at the Hebrew vowels, you would have a comments, make a comments and a tzera under the word mole, mem and lamed, mole, which means it's filled. It was filled. Veloi mila. It doesn't say mila, mean that it's full now. Ela mole vad this mikula. So the Zohar says mole vada, meaning for sure mole. At first, it came into its own completion, and only then it came down. If sheeted the cross, if you look at the simple meaning of the wording, it should have said milo. And then it would mean that the honor of God just filled the Mishkan. Simply, the honor of God filled. But since it says mole, it shows that actually the honor of God was completed itself, meaning there was some kind of at that moment at that moment there was a completion into Kvod Havaya itself. The honor of God itself had its own completion. And then this level was revealed in the sanctuary. What is the meaning of Kvod Havaya? Kvod Havaya is a reference to the level of Memale Kol Almin. It says in Yeshaya, what does Kvod means? The ray of his glory. Ziv Yikre. Which is reference to the attribute of sovereignty, of Malchus, which is also called the lower level of wisdom. And that lower level of wisdom, the source of the lower worlds. So, since the lower worlds are receiving, in the order of degradation, you start from wisdom, you go all the way down to the level of sovereignty. So, Chokhmah gives to the level beneath it. So, which level within Chokhmah? It says within Chokhmah itself, you have the higher level and the lower level. So, the lower level is the one that gives, to the level beneath it, to Bina and so on. So, Shei Bechinas Mid Malchus Boch, when we say Kvod Havaya, and we said before, Kvod Havaya is reference to Memale Kol Almin. So it's Shei Bechinas Midas Malchus. It's referring to the level of Malchus. Shenikra Gamkin Chokhmah Tito, which is also called the lower level of wisdom, which is the source for the lower worlds, for Bia. Where's the roots? Where's the mocker? Where's the source? The source is coming from the supernal wisdom that is called Koved Dilo. There's Koved Tato, the lower Koved, and there's the higher word, the higher Koved, Chokhmah Tato and Koved Dilo, the lower wisdom and the higher one. Depends what's the source, which source it's coming from. And within this Koved, we say there's Ashwas, the resting of the infinite light, literally the resting of the infinite light of God. Regarding to this level, Moshe Rabbeinu said to God, show me your honor.
Hashem said this?
Moshe Rabbeinu says to God.
Moshe
comes to God in Parshas Kisiso, chapter 33. He says to Hashem, show me your honor. What does that mean? I want to see Chokhmah Law. I want to see the supernal wisdom that is revealed within your infinite light, and is now referring to Chokhmah Tato, the lower one. Why? Because it says Arines Kveide Cho, meaning your own personal honor. That's Kveide Cho. Regarding to this, it says Bo Kvod Avayim Koimoy. We say Bo Kvod Hashem Im Koimoy. We say Bo Chus Hashem Bo Hashem Bo Kvod Avayim Im Koimoy. What does all these things mean? Bless Hashem from its place. Right? This is actually a pasuk in Yechezkel. It says, Baruch Kvod Havai Mim Koi Moi, from his place. Saying Kedusha. Pirush, Shebchinas Midas Malchus Yisborach, the level of Hashem's sovereignty, which fills the whole world. Memala Kol Almin. Yem Yisborach will be blessed from Ibchinas Mekoma V'Shosho. Not that Baruch Kvod Havai Mim Koi Moi means that it's not going to be blessed by us. It's going to be blessed from its root, from its own root and source. Mim Koi Moi. Meaning that Malchus, the attribute of Malchus, will be blessed is Borach. Mibchinas Mekoyim Aveshosh, from its own roots and source. What is the root and source of the attribute of Malchus? Is Chochmah Law, the supernal wisdom. So when the source of all blessings. So really, when we say Baruch Kvod Havai Mim Koi Moi in Kedusha, we're saying to Malchus, to the level of sovereignty, we want you to be blessed from your source. And what is your source? Is Chochmah Law, from supernal wisdom. And that's really the meaning of what we say in davening. And what is this Chochmah Law, supernal wisdom? That's Sam Shocha of the Sev Kolamid, the level of encompassing light within Memalakom, within the limited light. So when we say davening to Kvod Havai, we say Kvod Hashem Mim Koi Moi. We're really saying we want the infinite to come into the finite. The infinite should give the finite. The level of Chochmah Law should give the level of Chochmah Torah. The Sovev should give him Maleh. Should bless him. Should give him the flow should come down from Chochmah to Malchus, from wisdom to the lowest level of sovereignty. And that's the meaning of the honor of God filled the Mishkan, and he couldn't enter because of the thick cloud. So the Pirush Hazah, the Zohar, interpreted Sha'kovid Nismanim Korum B'chinat Kovid Ilo, that as we said before, Kvod Havai Molei, meaning that the honor of God Himself became full, became complete. Up to that point, to come down to the Mishkan, there was something missing there, and Kvod Havai Molei, that it became filled. How did it became filled? What completed it? What brought it to its completion? From the flow that was drawn down to it from its root and its source. Kovidilo, Chochmah, the supernal wisdom, the supernal glory fed it, and there is a completion now in Malchus. There's a completion now down below. So the cloud rested. What does it mean? The cloud rested is a drawdown. At that moment, there was a drawdown, a flow that came from the supernal makif, the supernal encompassing light. Then, because of the revelation of once they completed the Mishkan, since there was a revelation of the supernal encompassing light from the highest level, it brought about that Sovev, that they encompass the lower level within Sovev also would feed now Memale. The infinite would feed the finite. Chinas Pnimi, which would mean an inner light, V'moles HaMishkan. The issue usually with Sovev is that it's an outer light. At that moment, Sovev, the outer light, fed the Memale, the lower light, with an opening, with an inner light, meaning against its nature, something that is not happening on a regular basis. So the completion of Kvod Havai, of the honor of God, which we said before with reference to Malchus, Kvod Havai, Zivik, referring to Malchus, the honor, the cloud, is something that is bli gvul, has no limitations. That is makif, that is encompassing above revelation, complete something that's above revelation. That's why we see it as something that is hidden, and it's drawn down to, it's coming down to the Mishkan, to the sanctuary, and through this revelation, even the encompassing light that is above the world will be drawn down and will be revealed in Eiram Emale, in the light that is limited, that is contracted, to shine in the sanctuary and in an inner way, the way it is, the way that usually Mamale shines. But now the limited light is infused with an infinite light. And that's why Moshe was unable to enter the sanctuary. Why? Because he was himself incapable of receiving from this level of Yoshes Choshech Sisrei Shelamaylamod that is very lofty. So since this level is so high, Moshe Rabbeinu could not take from it. This is the encompassing light of all the worlds that was drawn down to the Mishkan, is above the vessels and the grasping of created beings. And that's why when Moshe said, Areini nos kvodecha, show me your honor, he wasn't able to. Hashem only showed him his back. It wasn't answered on this one. So now we're going to discuss, going back to the beginning of what we said in the beginning, Vayikra el Moshe. And it doesn't say who is the caller, and we have the small aleph. And in the book of Chronicles, we have Adam with a big aleph. Why does it say Vayikra el Moshe? Pirush, the meaning of it, Inyan Kriya Zu, Hainu Oravash Pala Moshe. This Kriya, this calling, is really giving Moshe. It's a flow that is coming to Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? So enabling Moshe to enter the tent of meeting. So in end of Parshas Pikudei, we find that Moshe is facing a challenge. Moshe is unable to enter the Mishkan. And this week Parsha, he's given the power, which is a continuation, is given the power to enter the Mishkan. Ashpor leMoshe, there's a flow that comes down to Moshe Rabbeinu that is going to be able to ascend to the tent of meeting. In the pasuk that we say, which is a pasuk in Yeshayahu, it says, the book of Isaiah, it says, that the angels are calling each other, and they say, Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. So the Targum Yonason explains, what does it mean? They receive one from the other, and they are able to say Kaddish. That he translated, when there is calling, there is receiving. When somebody is calling you, he wants to give you. You are becoming a recipient. And this is through how they're capable of saying Kodesh, is through Amshocha, through a drawdown that they are giving each other. So then everyone is capable of receiving this flow. So according to the simple meaning, when the pasuk says V'koro zel zeh, it means that one angel is calling the other. They're just calling each other. That's a simple meaning. But according to Targum Yonason, he says that the angels are actually receiving from one another, which is a whole different interpretation. V'koro zel zeh mekablin dein midin. They are receiving from one another. The one angel is bestowing a flow, giving a flow to his friend, and then his friend is doing the same thing. So they're ultimately mekablin deimidin, ultimately receiving from one another. Va'adin imay it says, really, there's no other way to interpret it, because otherwise it would be, we wouldn't be able to understand it. Why? Because we need to understand, why would Michael, the angel Michael, the archangel Michael, is calling the archangel Gabriel in the time that he says Kodesh? Why does Gabriel need Michael? Michael needs Gabriel. Why can't they manage without by themselves. What's the point of it? We need to understand, why would they call each other? What is the inyan? Ki pirush kriya zu, this calling, u'inyan karbolo shemekablim ze mizeh, they are receiving from one another. Al yedei hamshocha v'hashpo ze lo ze, through the drawing down and giving to one another. V'aynu shal yedei ze yu cholim al kol malach gimel pamim kodesh, by using each other, by giving to each other, now they're capable, each angel is capable of saying 3 times Kodesh. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do it. What does Kodesh means? From the angel perspective, Kodesh means Klois HaNefesh. The soul is departing, is leaving the body. They are now exposed to such revelation, such intense moment, that their body would depart. The meaning, the soul departs from the body, and that's really the end of it. But that's where they need each other, so to remain in existence. So when the angels are saying Kodesh, this is a moment of their expression. They're expressing this great desire to be one with the infinite light of God, to such level that to such degree that they are going to depart from, the soul will depart from the body. They're going to be completely nullified. So the word Kodesh is just an expression to their understanding of somewhat of Hashem's greatness. Meaning they're exposed to somewhat of His Reimus, His exaltance, which is above the worlds, above created beings. And by their understanding, they want to be one with Him. By them perceiving God's, somewhat of God's greatness, they want to be one with it. Such degree, to such level, that they go out of they depart from their vessels. Shir Kinyan Yotzim B'Shir, the Alter Rebbe over here brings the Gemara in Shabbos. It says, in the Gemara in Shabbos, Kol Bale Ashir Yotzim B'Shir. What does it mean? All those who are capable of singing, coming out singing. So according to the Mizritch Magid, has a deeper meaning to this Mishnah, that it actually describes the Klois HaNefesh, the losing of oneself, so to speak, in their being exposed to such level of godliness. They are now called Bale Ashir Yotzim B'Shir. That this is really speaking about, Mizritch Magid explains that the supernal angels that are called Bale Ashir, they're called the honor of the singing, because they are singing praise to Hashem. And their singing is an expression to their delight and understanding, arousal of their emotive attributes. Like someone that understands something that is wonderful, and he's excited. He's now somebody that suddenly perceived the great wisdom, and is very thrilled understanding it. He has great delight, so he's so happy that he starts singing. So the Malachim, the angels, are called Bale Shir Yotzim B'Shir. Malachim Yotzim B'Shir, they are now bursting out with this song, with singing. It's an expression, obviously, of joy and delight. And they are Yotzim B'Shir, meaning they are going out of themselves. The state of Klois HaNefesh, losing oneself. They are living, the soul is departing from the body because of their experience. They're going out of the limitations of the vessels that are limiting they are limiting them. We know that all the life that is given to the created beings is always light and vessels. And by the song that the angels are singing, they are now leaving their vessels. They go out of their vessels to be one with the infinite light of Hashem, because it says, Oiz v'chedva b'mkoimo. There is might and pleasantness in His place. So still see that Michal needs Gabriel, Gabriel needs Michal. That's what it means. Mekabel and Dein Midin, they're receiving from one another. Each one is able to get to the same point of getting rid of the kli, of the vessel, getting out of themselves in a different way. Michal leaves the body, leaves its vessels, its limitation through love. And Gabriel is able to get to the same point of going out of himself, going out of the kli through awe, through yira. And therefore, Michal would be capable of saying Kodesh only one time. He gets to his departing of one's limitations one time, and that's it. And Gabriel will be able to do it only one time in year through awe. So each one according to his attribute, to his level. Since Michal is love, so he would go out of his limitation through love, and Gabriel would go the same thing through awe, through fear. So since each angel is connected only with this level, with his own private way of serving Hashem, so the living one's body is also something private to him, individual to him. So each angel is capable of saying Kodesh one time. So in order to say 3 times, they need each other. In order for the angels to be able, Michal, Gabriel, the angels in general should be able to say 3 times Kodesh, they must have each other. They're calling one to the other. The flow comes from one to the other. The concept of the blending of all the levels into one another. Meaning, even if you were primarily chesed, you're dominated with kindness, you have to have some severity in it, and vice versa. Iskalus is the ultimate, that the blending of colors, that having different kinds of within the chesed there is some, within the kindness there is some severity, within severity there is kindness, and so on. So when the angels are saying we're calling each other, really what we mean is we want to be one. We want to receive what you have, and you want to receive what I have. In general, you have 3 levels: the chesed, kindness; love, gevura, severity; and tiferes, and splendor. So Michal, Gabriel, and Refael. Michal is the chesed, like we said. Gabriel would be severity, and Refael would be tiferes. Michal, Gabriel, Refael. And all these are names of angels. And by them receiving from one another, giving one another, receiving from one another, now they're capable of saying 3 times Kodesh. By themselves, they're all capable of saying 1 time, and that's it. And they would off to the races, they would leave their body. But since they're receiving Mekablin Dimidin, they're receiving from one another, they are capable of saying 3 times Kodesh. So what does that has to do with us? Because it says Vayikra el Moshe. There is a calling, like the angels are calling one another. So really, Vayikra is giving Moshe the power to enter the Mishkan. It's Moshe is unable to enter the Mishkan. Why? Because Yorad Olavan, because the cloud, because there was such revelation that we said before. The Alter Rebbe explained that Sev Kol Almin is encompassing light, and the infinite is getting into the finite, such intense revelation. We're unable to enter the Mishkan. What happens? Now Vayikra Moshe, Vayikra, we said that's calling that has to do with giving, and Moshe is receiving. Vayikra Moshe, Ainu Amshoch Asor al Moshe. Moshe is now receiving a revelation. Moshe is receiving a higher level they didn't have before. The same way that Malach, the angels, are calling each other. That means draw down of a flow, giving a flow to one another. The calling to Moshe is also a flow to Moshe, a godly flow. They come to Moshe It's Nesinas Korach is giving him the power to enter the tent of meeting. Even though it's coming from a very lofty, supernal place, as we said, Mokom Elyon V'Neiro Ma'od, it's a very supernal and fearful place. Moshe by himself was not able to enter it. He needed to have a Vayikra El Moshe. He needed Hashem to give him the power to enter the Mishkan. Now we're going to discuss again why does it say a small aleph in Vayikra. And this revelation is the small aleph of Vayikra, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu is receiving something. He's receiving now power to enter the Mishkan. What is that power? Is the small aleph. So the word aleph, if you would ask to write the word aleph, you would write aleph, lamed, and pei. That these three letters constitute the letter aleph. Aleph, lamed, pei. And if you reverse the letters, aleph, lamed, pei, it would read pele. What is pele? Pele is something that is wondrous, that is above understanding. It's a pele. It's something I can't explain. Why it's happening? Pele. It's a wonder. So aleph has the same letters as pele. Shu shelamala masog. As the Alter Rebbe writes, this is above understanding. V'gam aleph miloshin aleph chochma. Also, the meaning of aleph, that it's a source that chochma is coming from. What is aleph? It's a source where chochma, where wisdom is coming from. So the meaning of aleph chochma, meaning that aleph is the source where of the level of chochma. Aleph chochma, שהרי אולפנו הלימוד בפועל, בחינס החוכמה, והאלף הוא המוקר של המעלה מהחוכמה. So Aleph Chochma is actually referring to the level that is higher than the wisdom itself. That's the level where Chochma receives its power, receives its wisdom. והיינו כאלף הוא בקשר של המעלה מהחוכמה. So we see that Aleph, the word Aleph, or Pele, is connected with the crown that is above Chochma, because Chochma receives from the Aleph. But within the aleph itself, there's the big aleph and there's the small aleph. There's the big aleph, is the kesel the way it is in its essence and its root. Over there, Moshe is unable to come. The great aleph, written in the book of Chronicles regarding Adam, is referring to the kesel the way it is in its essence, without any kind of condensing, without any kind of contracting. And regarding this level, it says Moshe is unable to enter the tent of meeting because the cloud is resting on it. So meaning that is the crown, the way it is in its source, that is being revealed, and Moshe cannot enter. And this level, from this level, he cannot receive. But the small aleph is the revelation of Keser, the way it's drawn down. So it's more of a contracted type of a Keser that comes down. And now Moshe is capable of receiving from it. And not only receiving, now it's strengthening him that he's capable of entering the sanctuary. From this level, that's Vayikra Moshe. It was called, Moshe is being called, is receiving from this tiny aleph. He has now a revelation from it. And then is capable of entering the tent of meeting, that the cloud has rested on. But in the book of Chronicles, it says a big aleph. When it's speaking about Adam, from the great letter, big letter of Aleph, that's referencing to the Adam Arishon, the way he was, his level before he actually sinned. That Adam Arishon, first man, before sinning was on the highest level. Gavoya me'oid nalo. Very lofty level of Adam Rishon. And that's why in the book of Chronicles, describing Adam Rishon, who he was, as the Chronicles has to describe, gives us the description of the person. Who was he? It tells us that originally in his source, it was very lofty. And now we're going to discuss why it doesn't say who is speaking to. Vayikra el Moshe, but who is the one that calling Moshe? Should have said Vayikra Hashem el Moshe. Hashem called Moshe. Why does it say it in a vague type of a way? Vayikra el Moshe. No, we don't know who's the caller. Midrash tells us the caller is Hashem. Zohar tells us the caller is the Malach HaBris, the angel of covenant. But why doesn't it say clearly Vayikra Hashem el Moshe? Ma'at yuvan yamashu kosa midrash. Now it's going to tell us, the Midrash comes and tells us the Vayikra Moshe is usually in Vayikra Avram. It's the angel that called Avram, and then Hashem spoke to him. Over here it said the Midrash is emphasizing Hashem is the caller and Hashem is the speaker. Ani akir v'ani medaber. V'yesh la'ak d'ma shekosem makam acher. Al pi Maimar Razal. It's written there's a Siddur that has Hasidic discourses in the Siddur. So in this Siddur, he explained the Maimar Razal, a statement of the rabbis, and the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. It says, Eila Moyad Avai, we say it in the Kiddush of Yom Tov, Eila Moyad Avai Mikro Kodesh Asher Tikru Isam B'Moyadam. These are the festivals of Hashem that you will call, that you will announce them, you will call them in their time. It said, Tikru, you should call. Usually we say oisom, you call them. Atem, you should call them. Shekidu shamayadus b'kriyas beis Torah kosim. What is in Tikru atem? We know that the Shabbos, regarding Shabbos, it says mekadsha v'kaima. Shabbos has its own kedusha. I don't need you to call Shabbos. Shabbos by itself comes the seventh day. Shabbos is holy. It's Shabbos. Whether you call it Shabbos, you don't call it Shabbos. Even if you call Shabbos Sunday, it's still Shabbos. When it comes to the festivals, the rabbis would sanctify the moon at a certain time by witnesses, and then 10 days later, it would be. And next day would be Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month. And then 10 days later would be Yom Kippur, for example, if it's the month of Tishrei. And 14 days later would be Sukkot. So who is the one that calling the holidays? Who is the one that setting up the time for the holidays? It's you. Yeah, Atem. That's why it says, it says in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, it says, Atem, you are the callers. You are the one that makes the holidays. And even if Beis Din made a mistake in their calculations, when is the time of the Yom Tov? Since depended on Beis Din, the holiday would fall on that day, the day that they decided. Like we say in the davening, Mekadesh Yisrael v'azmanim, sanctify the Israel, the Jewish people, and the times, the holidays. Yisrael inu dekachinu lezmanim. So it says over there in the Gemara in Pesachim and Beitzah, they say, you are the one, the Jewish people are the one that sanctifying the festivals. Ve'inyan zeh, u'kamvor b'Zohar. This concept is written in the Zohar. The Zohar actually explains how is it that the sanctification of the moon, or in general sanctifying the holidays, festivals, is only dependent on the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court, because they used to sanctify al pi re'iyah. Someone has to see the birth of the moon. And we said that if they make a mistake, and let's say they sanctify the holiday of Pesach 3 days after the right time. Let's say they made a mistake and they decided Pesach is 3 days past the time. So in what will happen?
Doesn't it throw off the whole calendar if that would happen?
So he says that the days it was supposed to be Pesach it's a regular day,
right?
And the day that they decided it becomes holy.
Okay.
So the Zohar explains it. It said, "Va'inyan zirkom v'abezayah lemalko dezmin ushpizin." It's like a king that is inviting guests. Meaning the concept of sanctifying the holidays by the Jewish people will be explained in the Zohar, that tells us that the days of the holidays are like guests, that the king is inviting guests, and the Zohar ends off that there are three. Shemazmin Elov Bechinas Kodesh. There are three that he's inviting to him: the holiday of Pesach, the Matzot, Chag HaMatzos, the holiday that we eat matzos, Chag HaShavuos, the holiday of Matan Torah, and Chag HaSukkos, the holiday of Sukkot. It says, Al Pi Rov, majority of times the festivals are happening on a regular day, on a weekday, and then the regular day. Suddenly a festival falls on a weekday. It's something that is being called, meaning something that is being invited to the level of sanctity. Which is reference to, in Kabbalistic terminology, it's supernal wisdom. And that's why it's called Mikra Kodesh. It's being called, Mikra is again being called into, being invited into the holy. The weekday is being invited, is being introduced into the holy. That's why the Zohar brings a mashal, brings an analogy of a king that has inviting guests. What are the guests of the king? Is the three festivals: Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And over here, there's an emphasis of the day being sanctified, the weekday being sanctified. The fact that Shabbos is sanctified is already sanctified by itself. But the fact that the weekday is sanctified, that's a great novelty. And that's why it says Mikra Kodesh. He's calling them and makes them holy. In order to take the mundane, the weekday, and to uplift it, to make it holy, Shem Chitzonius, he calls it the outer level of the emotive attributes. Chesed, the outer level of chesed, not the inner level of chesed, the outer level of severity. In order for them to ascend to Chochmah, to the supernal wisdom, to take it into the supernal sanctity, you need to have some revelation from above, from above down. To bring supernal wisdom into that day, and then after you have such revelation from above, you can take the day and make it holy. You can make this weekday holy. Meaning that I can't just decide that the day becomes holy. I need something to happen from above on that day that I can transform a weekday into a holy day. But how this flow happens and how this flow takes place from above, meaning the flow of this Kodesh Orim, of the supernal sanctity into a weekday, has to happen through Neshamas Yisrael, through the Jewish souls. And that's what it means that in saying the Kiddush, these are the festivals of Hashem. Asher Tikru Oisam B'Modim, that you will call them. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says that it's not Oisom, that you're calling the holidays Kodesh, rather Shetikru Atim, that you are calling them. The Zohar telling us, what does that mean? You are calling them. You are tapping into, you're creating an arousal from above. You're creating a flow from above that will take the weekday and sanctify it. By the moyadim, by the festivals being established, being decided by the Supreme Court, by the Sanhedrin. Tikru atem, that you will call them, you decide when the holiday is going to happen, the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court, through the witnesses. But this calling in spiritual levels would mean that there is a calling from above to make the weekday holy, to bring down supernal wisdom, to bring supernal sanctity into a weekday and transform the weekday to be a holy. And that's why most of the time the festivals, they're actually falling on a weekday. It says regarding emissaries, agents. So you say the shlucho shelodon k'moisa. It's written in the Gemara in Brochus Lamed Daled that if you're sending somebody, it's just like you. Like you, if God forbid somebody sends someone to do good, to do something good, fine. But if somebody sends somebody to do bad, you many times would punish the person who did it, but also the one who orchestrated it, the one who sent it, the one who sent him. Why? Because they say he's a representative of you. Shlucho shelodon k'moisa. It's just like you. What does this has to do with us? It says, when it comes to shlichus, to be an emissary, it says, Ein shlichus lecher shoyte v'koten. If you are in level of deaf, if you're a level of full of cotton. This actually I heard from Rabbi Buket. He quoted the Chatam Sefer, I believe, that cherish doesn't necessarily would mean someone in the literal meaning deaf, or shoite would not literally would mean literally someone that is retarded, but or cotton, someone that is a minor, would actually mean that someone that is in a state of being deaf. You're not listening, you're not receptive, you're in a state of being deaf. You are a shoite, you're being retarded. Someone not in that moment is in a state of insanity, is not capable of tapping into the moment, receiving. There's something lacking at that moment. So it says over here, there's no shlichus. You can't appoint an agent to someone that is deaf, mute, a retarded, or minor. Because that person would never be like the sender. He would never be like the one who sent him. But if he's capable of receiving the mission, he's capable of taking the mission on himself, and then he becomes just like the sender, just like the one who sent him. So much so that I can appoint somebody to betroth a woman for me, and he does it for me, and she becomes my wife by sending someone else. Meaning, if the person is capable of handling this shlichus, if someone is capable of accepting it and taking it and doing it properly, then he becomes exactly like the mishalech, like the sender, and you can, so much so that he can even accomplish marriage. But if it's cheresh shoyte v'kotan, if it's minor, retarded, and a deaf mute, they're not capable of, and they are not ba'adas, don't have the intellect, they're not capable of doing it. Now we have to have an agent, and that is a supernal sanctity. Meaning, we are taking, when we're dealing with Yom Tov, we take a weekday, and we are now declaring it a festival. We're taking a weekday, and it suddenly becomes Pesach. Let's say Pesach falls on Thursday, Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday. These are weekdays. How did we brought sanctity into the weekday? Similarly to that, Ashaliach, the agent, we are inviting Mikroi Kodesh is again the concept of calling. We are inviting, and by inviting also giving, calling and giving, the weekday to be transformed into a day of sanctity. That is not possible to happen unless the agent is completely becomes like the sender, the one who sent him. That's what it says. These are the festivals of Hashem. Asher tikru atem, not oisom. The Gemara says atem. You are the one that will call them. You are the one that are capable of sanctifying the festivals, bringing sanctity into the mundane, into the weekday. Kodesh Yisrael v'ayinu atem. The Neshom is Yisrael nemar alem. Regarding the Jewish souls, the prophet Jeremiah, Yirmiyah, he writes in chapter 2, verse 3, he said, Kodesh Yisrael Havai. What does it mean? Kodesh Yisrael, the sanctity of Yisrael to Hashem, to God. The root and their wisdom, where is it coming from? From Chochmah Elah, from the supernal wisdom. Meaning the root of the Jewish people are rooted in the supernal wisdom. And that's why they are capable of becoming the messengers, because of their source. They are capable of becoming the messengers to draw down the light from the supernal holiness and to bring it into the weekday. El Hayom Shechal B'Yom Tov, the day that the Yom Tov falls on. The fact that you will be the one to call it, Daiko, specifically you, Nasi Mikroy Kodesh, then the days can become, the weekday can become a festival, that they will ultimately ascend to the supernal sanctity. So the Mishaleach, the sender, is supernal wisdom. The Shaliach, the agent of this level, need to be similar to it. Meaning you can't have, for example, a commander in the army, right? He's in the battlefield. He needs to have soldiers that are similar to his level. People that can run like him, people that can shoot like him, people that can do similar things like him. Otherwise, they can't be his soldiers. In order to be in his platoon, they need to be in similar training. They need to be in similar level. They need to know similar things. So we also, in order for us to introduce Kodesh HaElim, the supernal sanctity, we need to be in that level. So the sender is given. He's the meaning Hashem, supernal sanctity, supernal wisdom. The agent, us, we need to be on that level. In order for us to be the true agent, true emissary, we need to be on that level. To transfer it, to take it, and we bring it down. And that's why the root of the Jewish souls are rooted in the supernal wisdom. The same way that a son is drawn down from the brain of the father. Similarly, the neshama of every Jew is rooted from God's thought and wisdom, and they are worthy to be the agent for Chochmah Elah, for supernal wisdom. And through their calling, the weekday can be transformed into a holidays, into a festival, into a time of sanctity. What do we find from all of the above? Regarding the agency from above, the shlichus, sending somebody to do something, the mission that is given from above, that there is a revelation that comes down through a certain level, through some kind of arousal that happens. The agent has to have something from the source that he is tapping into. And if he is not able to somewhat tap into that mokar, to that source, he doesn't have it, he cannot be a shaliach, he cannot be a true emissary, true agent. So the shaliach has to have somewhat from the level of the Mishareach, of the sender.
It's 8:30.
5 more minutes and I'll be done. So, when it comes to the angels, they're also agents. Why? Because they are taking flow and bringing it down. We're going back to our subject, because we spoke previously about the angels. They're calling each other. Their job many times is to take from the infinite light of Hashem and to bring it down through many degradations, many contractions. Angels of every world, they're agents, and they are the vessels to the light. They carry and they contract it in them and they're giving it over. So the Malachim in general are also called agents. What is Malach? Shaliach. Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim lefanav v'leisavachiv. Yaakov sends angels according to one interpretation, and according to another he sends messengers. So Malach is a messenger. According to, going back to our subject, regarding Avraham Avinu, our patriarch Avraham, it says that an angel called him. Vayikra Malach, HaMalach koire v'adibur medaber. The angel is calling and the dibur is speaking. It says Va'era el Avraham, Hashem appeared to Avraham, right, in Parshas Va'era el Avraham, Bekel Shin Daled Yud, which is the name of Hashem. V'shmi Havai lo nedati lahem. But it says Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu the name of Havai was not known to them, meaning it's something exclusively that is happening with you. To them it was not known. Shasog Asov is that the grasping of the patriarchs were from Bchinas Havai, from the level of Havaya Kshekvar Nimshach Bchinas Elokim, meaning they did receive from Havaya, but they received from Havaya from the level of Yud Kei Vav Kei, from the level of the name of God, the way it was drawn down into Elokim, after it was contracted into Elokim, and then they received. So they had to have, the patriarchs had to have the intermediary of Elokim, the name Elokim, somewhat being concealed. Aval Ushmi Havaya, Dainu Koidum Shnisa B'Shem Elokim, but the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei before it was enclosed in the name Elokim was not known to them. Lo yinodati lahem. Who received from there, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to receive from Havaya, the name of Havaya, before it was contracted in the name Elokim. Valkein, and therefore, Ba'avom, and regarding Avraham Avinu, regarding our patriarch Avraham, Hamalach koire v'adibur medaber, the angel is calling, and the Hashem is speaking to him. Shamalach shaliach, the Malach was the agent to bring the flow, to bring the flow in the beginning. This is the calling. Then he is able to ascend and receives the dibur. So the angel is calling Avraham, taking him to the next level, uplifting him, and now he is able to receive. Avraham is capable of receiving the dibur medaber, and then he is able to hear what Hashem has to say to him. The dibur, the utterance of God is completely enclosed in the name Elokim, meaning it's concealed in the name Elokim. And therefore, the angels that are also called Elokim in the pasuk, it says sometimes the angels themselves, we're giving them the name Elokim. As the pasuk says in Parshas Ekev, Ki Havaye Elokeichem, Hashem, your God, is a God of all gods. What does it mean? Upirish Vepadas, explaining it, that He's the God of all the angels. And sometimes the angels themselves are called Bnei Elokim. Eov, in the book of Job, he calls them Bnei Elokim. And therefore, the Malach himself can be a Baal Shluchos, meaning the angel has to be godly. He has to have some godliness in it in order to be the agent of Hashem, to be the angel of God. He has to be something from Elokim. And that's why Eov calls them Bnei Elokim, the sons of God. And that's why the Malach can be, the angel can be Baal Shlichus, capable of carrying the mission to, for example, to Avraham Avinu, that he's calling Avram, uplifting him, and then transmitting the utterance of God to him. When it comes to Vayikra El Moshe in our Parsha, the utterance, the prophecy, and the utterance are coming from Shem Havayah, the name of Havayah, but before Shem Havayah encloses itself in the name Elokim, directly from the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's the calling to Moshe. And where is the source of this flow coming? The source of this flow coming from a level where darkness is really light, where we are calling it darkness only because we can't perceive it. And that's why the calling from such a level cannot be done by an angel, because the angel doesn't have a clue in this level. So the name of Havayah is calling Moshe Rabbeinu had to be done directly by Hashem, because the angels had no say in the matter. The angels could not be a shaliach for this type of a flow, because it's above them. That's what the Midrash tells us. Who is that when it comes to Vayikra El Moshe, Hashem is the caller and Hashem is the speaker, because no one else could carry that mission. To carry the mission, you have to be part of it. You have to have some connection with it. Pirush, like it says, I'm the first one and I'm the last one. This is a pasuk in the prophet Yeshaya tells it to us. I'm the caller and I'm the last one and I'm the speaker. That's what it says in the world to come, in the time of Mashiach. Re'u, you shall be able to see. Re'u ato, now you see. Ki ani hu. The Zohar tells us what you are going to see in the world to come, that there is no separation between the Rishon and the Achron, between the first one and the last one, meaning that in the world to come, this will be in the lost love in the time of Mashiach. Now it seems like there's two levels that are separated from one another, but in the time to come, you will see that they're both equal. When it says Ani Achron, I'm the last one, it means that referring to the attribute of sovereignty, the end of all levels, Sefer Dechol Dargin, the end of all levels, the lowest one, or the bottom one, that is encloses itself in the worlds of creation, formation, and action. And then it says Umishami Pored. From there is a separation that Hashem is creating as something yesh, something that seemingly thinking is independent. V'dov onifod. Aval ani rishon, but the level of I'm the first one is the level of Ayin, of nothingness from our perspective. V'achokma me'ayin timotz, like it says, wisdom, where you will find wisdom in Ayin. The wisdom is the level of nullification. A smart person learns from everyone, meaning that he is capable of being in a state of a recipient, nullifies itself, and therefore capable of receiving from all. So Rishon is referring to Ayin, and Achron is referring to the Sof, to the end. Ani Rishon, Ani Achron. But in time of the Zohar tells us, and in time of L'osid Lo, in the future times, we are going to see that both are really the same. In the time of Mashiach, the revelation Lamailo above will going to be exactly like it is. The revelation below is going to be exactly the way it is above. That's what it means, that in the time of Mashiach, in the future times, you will be able to see Ki ani hu, I am him, meaning that in the time of Mashiach, this revelation will be with our vision, with our capability of seeing, as the prophet says, Ayin be'ayin, they will be able to see eye to eye. But regarding Moshe, what it says, Vayar Rishis Loi, it says, Vayar Rishis Loi, Shu Bechinas Chochmoi Lo, in Zois HaBocho, Vayar Rishis Loi, in the last parsha of the week.
The year.
Right? It says, Vayar Rishis Loi, Shu Bechinas Chochmoi Lo, Shenikris Rishis. It's referring to the supernal wisdom that is called Breshit, Genesis, beginning. Shenimshech is in Bechinas Ayin, that is derived, is generated from Ayin. Ani Rishon, I'm the first one. Al Ken Al Zom Razad, the rabbi says, I'm the caller, I'm the speaker. Pirush, I'm the caller. What does it mean I'm the caller? Hainu midas malchus is boach shenikas aniachon. It's referring to the level of malchus. It's the last one. V'aniu medaber, and who is the speaker? Ubechinas v'achokma ma'initimotz is referring to the highest level, to wisdom. Shebechokma elo melu b'shon zoboch ma'ash. When it comes to supernal wisdom, the infinite light of Hashem is invested in the supernal wisdom. Literally, as it's written, meaning the Yud Kei Vav Kei is enclosed in supernal wisdom. This type of revelation is called Ani Rishon. And that's why we said that Malchus, the attribute of Malchus, is the agent for this calling, because Malchus has something from the sender, from the giver. What does it have? What does Malchus have to be able to carry the mission? It has Chokhmah Ilah. It has something from the supernal wisdom. And that's what we're going to see in the time of Mashiach. Ani Rishon v'Ani Achron, we're going to see they're both really the same, that they're not separated from one another. And then it says in the Zohar, Vayikra Moshe u'malach habris. Seemingly, there was a contradiction between the Zohar and the Midrash, because the Midrash says, Vayikra Moshe, what does it mean? Who called Moshe? It was Hashem that spoke to him directly. Hashem called him and Hashem spoke to him. Comes the Zohar, he says, no, Vayikra Moshe is the angel of covenant called Moshe. How do we reconcile the two interpretations? It says, Malchus, the level of Malchus, sovereignty, is sometimes called king, Melech. And sometimes it's called Malach, an angel. It says in the Zohar that when the divine presence becomes an agent from above to give down, and receives a flow from higher levels to bring them down, and then at that point it's called Malach and not Melech. At that point, the Shechina, which we usually call it Malchus, is now called Malach, an angel. So the moment that it receives from a higher level and carries it down to us, the Zohar tells us at that moment the Shechina becomes Malach, an angel, and not Melech, not king. It says an angel, when he's on a mission, is on a much higher level when he's not on a mission. When the angel is idle, like for example, God sent angels to tell of Sarah that she's going to have a son.
Right.
At that moment, now he's carrying the mission. He's on a higher level when he carries the mission than when he's not carrying the mission. So at the moment that he carries the mission, he's called a malach, an angel. So for example, a malach that carries the mission of God, at that moment he is like God. Right? Because it says shlucha shalodom k'mo. It says shlucha is the agent is like the sender. And then he's called, that's what it says, Vayikra Malach Hashem, like the angel of God is calling Avram. Sometimes the angel himself is called Bnei Elokim, the sons of God. So, but on the other hand, when he's not a shaliach, when he's not carrying the mission, he has a different name according to his job of whatever he does at that time. And then he calls Kodesh, 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 meaning that the name of Hashem is separated from him; it's not one with him. So when he's calling Kodesh, 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 when he's not per se on doing the mission.
But some angels, they do the mission and they're finished.
Right. But certain angels are there forever, like the archangels.
Right, okay.
Similarly, when it comes to Malchus, to sovereignty, it says regarding all the attributes of God that are really one with Him, they're not separated from Him. But the moment that the Zohar tells us that, nevertheless, when they're involved in the mission, they're on a higher level. Usually, Malchus by itself is united with the infinite light that is enclosed in it. But once it becomes a shaliach, once it becomes an angel from above, then it's uplifted to a much greater, superior level. Malach, angel and not a king. So we see regarding this, the Aleph, the small Aleph, you open the Torah, hopefully we'll be able to open the Torah this week, but if we open the Torah this week, we'll see that the Aleph is a tiny Aleph. Shua oro v'amshocho, which is a flow and a drawdown. Where is the flow and the drawdown from this tiny aleph in Vayikra? The power that is given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Ki shochan olavon, and it's coming from the power of the cloud is resting, a thick cloud, which is a higher level. When you see a greater concealment, it shows us a greater revelation. And similarly in our times, when we have a greater concealment, what we are experiencing is a greater revelation. The Yoshes Choshech Sisroi, that the darkness is like light. V'nikra maloch v'loi maloch melech aleph chulu. So the small aleph, aleph, it's the added aleph that was added to Malchus at the time of its mission. And that's what the meaning of Vayikra el Moshe, meaning this is done, as the Zohar says, by Malach HaBris, the angel of covenants. Malchus Shasher Nikris Melech B'Tesefes Aleph. It's Melech with an added aleph. So you have a Melech, and you're adding an aleph to the Melech, it becomes a Malach. It becomes an angel. So we see that the small aleph is a level that was given to Moshe Rabbeinu to enable him to enter the Mishkan, a mission that cannot be done by anyone else. It can only be done by Moshe Rabbeinu, and no angel could carry that mission. And we all merit. We know that every Jew has a nitzitz, has a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu. We all merit to ignite that spark and use it, utilize it, and ultimately give it to others, give it to the environment, to others that we are engaging with. Bruchim Tiu, should be blessed, and thank you everyone for watching.